Hi, it's so great to be with you again. I'm really thrilled to have my sister-in-law and great friend Rachel Kitchen with me today, and we are discussing chapter 5 from my book, Less is More, Purposeless. Hi Rach, great to see you.
Hello, so good to see you too.
Thank you for
over the screen.
It's all good. It's all good. This is how we're living now. Just as a way of introduction, Rach, obviously, I've just said that you're my sister-in-law. You're wife to Andy. You're mother to two lovely children who happen to be my niece and nephew, so they're particularly favourites of mine. And you lead a church called Hope Street up in Wrexham, which you've just started.
We're literally just planting now. Yeah, early days.
It's really exciting. It's really, really great. You're a lover of good coffee and a good hair product. So, Rach, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
My parents were Christians. They introduced faith to us right from an early age, which was wonderful, and that became very real to me. I think a key stage for me was in my year out. I moved up to Watford at aged 18, and I think being in that environment for me at Soul Survivor, the early days, it absolutely transformed my idea of what church could be. So I did 6 months there, went off to university thinking that was it, off to university in Twickenham. And then after 6 months, Mike Pilavachi kind of invited me back to help lead the kind of soul time course, this discipleship course. And so from this, thinking I'd be there for 6 months, I ended up spending 10 years in Watford. And then Andy and I came across each other's paths. My husband, he had been in Watford for 6 months, and then we bumped into each other again, and we got married, and I moved up to Nottingham. Our friends invited us down to help lead a church in King's Cross, and we were there at KXC as assistant leaders for coming up 7 years. So it's a long story. We were at KXC. We never thought we would be London people, but it was an amazing period of time. And then we've left London just recently to come and plant a church in North Wales, in Wrexham, and we're just at the early stages of planting. So all these different places, each have kind of contributed so much to who we are and who we are as leaders.
So I just wonder, with this whole, you touched a little bit there about your time up in Nottingham and this sense in which the Lord was speaking actually to both of you then, because obviously the church leadership thing has been in you a long time, as it has in Andy, and you've obviously, the Lord's brought you together in marriage, and that's wonderful. And yet it was in Nottingham that you had that real sense of God, we're called to plant. And then you find yourselves at KFC planting alongside another couple, which was a brilliant season in your lives, and no regrets about that. But it obviously looks slightly different to what you maybe had felt it might be in Nottingham. But now you're at that place where you are planting on your own, and not that that's better than what's been before, it's just a different way of doing it. But I wonder, over the years, have you ever wondered if it would ever come to fruition? Has doubt ever crept in, Rach? Have you just been this, you are fiercely optimistic, I know about you, and I love that about you, Rach, but has there ever, even in you, Rachel Kitchen, has there ever been doubt that what has come to pass would ever come to pass?
I think even in phrasing the question that kind of way, I think it almost says that there's certainty, and you sense God stirring something in you, and when you start discerning that actually the Lord is calling, it's not clear, lights in the sky. It's this little whispers and prompts, and you kind of hold them, and your heart stirs. And so you have this sense of, I think that this is what the Lord is calling us to, and that over the years, it becomes, yes, but there's along the way, I think in reading your book and in reflecting on this for today, I think it's recognizing that there's different seasons. And sometimes I think that we place all of the attention on the one thing, where we talk about like a unique calling or a unique vocation or a unique contribution. We kind of think of the uniqueness as one particular thing that we've got to get to, rather than the uniqueness is not a job description. The uniqueness is, it's my one life. So I think the times that for me, that have been probably the most tricky is when I probably have let go of something where I felt fully free, alive in my calling, and have had to give that up because there's been a new thing. And you literally have to kind of step out of that. And so the vulnerability in that moment is, well, Lord, was that it? Who is Rachel Kitchen when she's not a pastor? And yet, as you know, God really did meet me in that amazing time. I think there is something of the simplicity, of the less is more, when actually every other distraction is taken away and it's just me, Jesus, and what is in front of me that day. But that contains vulnerability, doesn't it? When you have to let go and then go, is this ever going to come back again? And it involves grief sometimes, it involves vulnerability. And there's probably been a number of stages in my life where I've had to go through that. And you talk quite a lot about formation. I think that is, those periods of times have the potential to form us, probably at a deeper way than sometimes the ministry and just getting on with the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's so good. And I think, again, just reflecting before we chatted today, you know, so often I've made the mistake in my life thinking that purpose is something over there that I'm striving towards rather than it being here and now. How did God kind of get your attention to go, Rach, but this is where I need you now?
It's taking away from a job description. We're not called to a job description. We're called to bring who we are to the moment that we're in. And so it was recognizing that actually God had called me to be a pastor, but I could be a pastor in wherever I found myself in that moment. And how is it different? Because people need care and the love of God and a listening ear and maybe some wisdom or truth, whether they are in that environment or this. It's that whole thing again of the sacred and the secular divide. I think let's dissolve that kind of where the purposes of God, where the kingdom of God can be established. And when we see the whole of life in that way, then I think it's more helpful. Then we're able to kind of embrace the moment that we're in right now.
Yeah, that's really good, Rach. And I think, significance, and I've talked about it in the book too, but, significance is not how we measure it. I think the language you put around purpose and, like you say, job descriptions, and again, that comes from this kind of societal expectation that our purpose is found in what we do. And that's why we attach so easily to being a pastor, being a barista, being a mother. Actually, those are just parts of our makeup and our skill sets, really, that God, like you say, has placed us here in this moment in time to be part of his story, as our story is interwoven with his. That's all it is. But I think we've overcomplicated it because we are so fixated on doing that we preach Mary and Martha over and over again. And actually, but the sentiment of that is right. It's that who we are before Jesus. If there's been a point in your journey thus far where you felt like others have kind of overtaken you?
The temptation to compare is strong, isn't it? But I think it's a real killer. Like, it kills courage in the moment, and ultimately it stops us bringing the fullness of ourselves. I think what I have learned is that whole season thing. So I think it's recognizing that there are seasons. It feels like God accelerates and draws back multiple times in life, and when you can trust that, and others receive more prominence. I think partly this is something that I have learned from Soul Survivor. You know, it was drilled into us beautifully, that kind of audience of one.
Mm.
And I think that that has become a deep value in me. And so when we can actually keep our eyes on, actually, I'm doing this for Jesus, and the main thing that we've got to do, that he calls us to do, is to be faithful. I am not faithful. I try, but I am mess that up all the time. But that is ultimately what he calls us to. Sometimes I think that can probably be helpful when you can recognize this is a time for others to step forward and me to step back, and it might be then trying to accept that, which can be difficult, but that actually this might be a stepping back because the Lord is stepping us into something else. Or it might be the sense of, actually, can we just keep celebrating one another?
And as you were talking, I was reminded how I've just become so much more trusting of God, if I can say it that way, that his timing is perfect.
Exactly.
And I think, when we're young and immature, or immaturer than we are today, we watch people excel and we think, oh, but what about me? Or I've got those gifts, or, we can become, and I think especially women, I think we can get, men I know struggle with it too, but I think for women, sometimes it can feel like it's a worse thing. And actually just trusting God's time and going, yeah, actually it's their moment. Let them shine. God's obviously doing something else in me that's hidden. It's painful, or it's frustrating, or okay, but it is trusting God's timing in that. And who would want anything outside of God's timing anyway? Because that can't be helpful. But it's kind of growing in that trust, isn't it? Everything's a journey of trust ultimately. That God is faithful.
Yes.
Timing is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's that's really, really helpful. But I wondered how might you encourage someone today who's listening to say, if they're in that place of feeling like they're striving for significance, feeling like they're not being heard, feeling like they're not being noticed, what would you want to say to those?
I think there is something very upside down in the kingdom. And the world says it's about the stage. The world says it's about the number of people that you're speaking to. And I don't think the kingdom is built like that. The people that we now look to, so as the most influential, are the Mother Teresa, are the Jackie Pullinger, their significance comes and their authority comes from their willingness to embrace the hiddenness. And so I would say that there is a power in right now, like almost sacrificing that desire for influence, or sacrificing that desire to be seen. It is hard, but the Christian life is, taking up our cross and following Jesus because we love him. We love him. And ultimately trusting that way leads to resurrection life. It will lead to resurrection life. There's no path that God leads us down which is to our destruction. It is only to our liberation. And so I think I'd say, even in that moment when it's most difficult, to try and let go and embrace the hiddenness, because ultimately God sees, God forms us in that moment, and authority comes from those moments.
Yeah, that's gold. That's absolute gold. Thank you, Rachel. Such an encouragement. I just wondered, as we finish our time together, would you just finish the sentence, less is more?
Yeah, less is more, because the one Jesus is worth everything.
That's so good. That's so good. Rach, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely to chat to you. So good.
Great. Thank you for writing the book.
That's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I'm praying for you and Andy and everything that's happening at Hope Street. It's so exciting. Can't wait to see what the Lord does. And timing's perfect, right? That's what we celebrate. So we're so thrilled for you. So thrilled. Love to you all, and take care, and I'll see you soon.